about, is there a possibility for the national government to look at a regulatory reform of the sector? I know that it was not, it hasn't gained that kind of formalized recognition, but there definitely is an opportunity to revive what currently exists as a framework for this sector. I believe that there's been no effort or common um, getting together of all the stakeholders led by yourselves, because you are the ones who set up the agenda for the sector, whether in terms of codes or in terms of the regulatory framework. And I believe that we cannot have some kind of a jab and a piecemeal response to the sector. We need to have a framework that is going to guide not just the municipality but the provinces to actually come up with something that is common, or a policy that is common, that is going to bind the municipalities to benefit the sector and economic development. Thank you.
Yeah. Vandeka, do you want to go first? Many questions were directed to you.
Okay. I think in relation to the interface with the city, I think sometimes many of the delays that happen, specifically when you looking at your applications, sometimes the applications that are submitted are not complete. So it will take longer in terms of processing, because there's a back and forth in relation to compliance and so forth. And perhaps that speaks to a component of technical support that needs to be there in relation to the development process. I mean, your building plans as well, they would have to go through a process of circulation from various departments so that they can comment on the application. I mean, that's something that the communities need to understand, to say it's not you submit the application and we evaluate and it will then, it still needs to go via various other departments so that they can also evaluate and indicate if there's additional components that need to be taken into account with that application. We've tried to streamline our processes. I think we've even tried to put in place an online application, digitizing our processes so that we try to have that technological interface and also a seamless kind of process. But I think one of the things that some of the comments point to is that there's definitely that need for the community engagement component in land use management. Land use management is a key to whatever interventions you want to do in your home. I mean, if you don't know what is your zoning certificate saying about your height restrictions, about your building lines, about certain rights that you have in relation to your property, then you are basically in the blindsided in terms of the interventions. So maybe there's that component that needs to be elevated in your community so that they understand the key concepts of your land use rights. And when you have a property or land, how do you understand the rights and the uses that come with that land? What can you do? Is it a residential one? Is it a residential two? What are the rights that are associated with that? So I think that is a component that we perhaps need to bring as a municipality to say, in your property ownership rights, these are the things that you can do and these are the things that you can't do. If you want to do this, these are the platforms that you need to engage so that you can make an informed decision. I think even before acquiring a property, you should be looking at its zoning to say, actually, what can I do with this property? Because I'm thinking of doing this thing, like, is this thing going to be possible on the ground when I actually acquire the property? So I think these are some of the resources that we can put in our planning base or in our regional centers to say, when you acquire property, these are the rights that come with the property, and this is how you interface with the property. And whatever interventions that you want to do, then you need to look at these particular channels, having that full view and that understanding of this is what I can do. I think we welcome the city's network collaboration. There's a lot of issues that we would like to interface with you in relation to. And we have a useful, I think, engagement in relation to that. There was an issue. I think policy compliant. What I wanted to highlight as well is the policy compliant issue. Perhaps it's a perspective issue. People don't understand why we need to comply. Why are the benefits? What's the value of us complying and actually doing things by the book, vis-a-vis just doing our own thing? So that is the message I think we need to drive to say this is with the communities. This is the change in perspective that we need to put in place so that when they interface with compliance, they see the benefits as opposed to just them being banded and it's just some directive that they need to get through and so forth. But it's actually going to enhance the value of their assets, and in the long term, then they'll be able to benefit from that compliance.
I'm fine. I think you've covered it very well. She's giving it to me because I've got a special interest on planning approval. I happen to research some work that the City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni are doing in response to what Mfundo posed, given that there is this ease of doing business reports that exist, which sets, I think, intimate the National Treasury working with the World Bank for work on. Maybe it's a response which is moving towards what government is going to do or planning to do around making sure that all the issues that makes doing business in the different cities, it's done with ease, and we looked at turnaround times in the three metros. We did see the differences, and we looked at digitization, which is what she spoke about. There are different systems across the board, and as a way of resolving it, there is a conversation with the Department of Cooperative Governance, where as human settlements, I think in the white paper, we ended up with a clause that says there has to be some innovation that gets implemented such that we are able to support what the cities do. If we are talking about application for township establishment, because we tend to be affected by it, it has to have turnaround times. And if it's a rezoning application, it has to have those turnaround times and it has to be monitored. So moving towards what probably the private sector is complaining about is crafting a system that will enable us to be able to see where the breakdowns are. Okay. So there is that which is championed by COCTA. It's just that I forgot the name of the hub which they've created, where they are beginning to put all the different information. But it is work in progress. When the president made a pronouncement about the need for us to review planning regulations, research was already pointing in that direction to say there is a problem. Even the engagements with the convoy, they were pointing to those issues to say, as government, they are the ones who are creating these delivery bottlenecks. And with us as human settlements, it affected us because we were talking about the titling, and the titling process we blame other sector departments. Exactly what London is talking about in relation to maybe submitting a plan, you think, yeah, submitting it to development planning, but it has to be referred to other divisions in the city, and there is that silo, but at the end there has to be an approval that gets granted. So all I'm saying is that there is work towards that, which will take us to what probably colleagues are asking for. At the current moment, it's still fragmented. It has been identified to say it is something that needs to be worked on. I want to move to the question which you were posing to us as a collective, and I appreciate the other comment around the network that is there, which I think is what we can use for consultation. The colleague from the British High Commission, her concern around that we tend to be too clinical around what we do. Maybe because I'm an advocate of a clinical approach, it becomes very difficult for me not to be able to dissect where the issue is. Because all of us probably in the room, we do talk around the value chain for human settlements or housing. What is it that goes in there? And when I was saying there is, government will intervene where there is market failure, it's because we analyze the different elements of the value chain to say where does the breakdown happen. Is it something that government needs to intervene in, or it's something that needs to be left for the market to address with the conversations that I've pointed towards to say, we'll put you in the room and ask you, we've looked at the value chain, our research is pointing that it's our beneficiaries who are complaining about our delays in terms of offering a unit. In terms of what we've provided for in the white paper, we have identified that we were pro the ownership model. And we are not going to be able to solve the housing problem if we only focus on the ownership with, I don't want to say neglect because I've dismissed the issue of neglect. We did have instruments, but there were only two. I've given them to you. It's the hostel redevelopment, CRU so-called, which is the community residential and the social housing. If you look at the delivery numbers there, they were very small. And that's why we are saying we need to develop other instruments over and above what we've provided. Hence, you have that line that talks to small-scale rental, the rent to buy, the backyard in the form of infrastructure support to whatever that you would have provided as part of engineering services. So all I'm pointing towards is, yes, there is that weakness that existed, but we have since begun to work towards addressing it. I've started by going back to 2014, giving you the Rental Amendment Act, just to showcase that there is something that is moving. It's just that it's not moving at the pace at which it's supposed to move at. And it does require us to be in one room to talk about the different interventions. I've committed and said in the APP for this year, we are saying we are looking at rental interventions. In the white paper, we've written it as a broad policy statement that says there must be a rental, affordable rental free. We knew it won't be a single one, given that the market differs for those who are on the lower end and those who are on the medium income brackets and those who are on the upper end. We have been analyzing, working together with yourselves, not alone. I think it's issues that I'm saying, let's sit in the room and talk about, so that at least when we say, here's the framework that addresses the problem of small scale, at least it addresses the need that you yourself have identified, advising us and clearly classified to say what the actual problem and where the actual problem is. And I think as I was articulating it earlier, I said, I listened to all of you, but I got confused. I said I became a cat, because a cat gets confused between whether you go for meat or you go for or milk. Given that you were giving pointers to three different things. And if one were to choose which direction to go to, I still need to be guided by yourself to say, what do we do? Do we look at the infrastructure engineering services, which is what I was trying to relate to. We talk about the rental, which becomes cash subsidies for those who affect you as they become tenants, who end up not being able to afford rent. Or we go for what my learned colleague Brian is talking about in terms of having these educational problems. You've given me, I think, about 6 areas. I keep on writing and creating these sectors, and I'm saying there's going to be this conversation. We'll get there and write it up such that it solves the real problem. And of course, there must be evidence that backs it up so that when we write it, it's evidence-based. On the question of what problem, from where I'm sitting, I'm saying it's, I don't know whether my colleagues will agree with me, so I know we are as Kata in Zulu, we are making us fight. I'm saying we have a problem of planning for urbanization. We have a problem of population explosion. Indeed, it does have a housing problem in it because whatever it is that we are failing to plan for, it ends up not being resolved by the legal that government provides in the form of ownership options that have been there. And we do require the rental interventions, and they do require different sets of instruments because you have those who are on the lower end of the income categories who've never been fully supported because we provided rental in the hostel redevelopment program. CRU did not work. The social housing program, we did implement it, but you look at the numbers, I don't think we reached 50,000. And you are there in the rental, the backyard, which is the single rooms, which are not part of what you are talking about here on the higher scale, the small scale rental. We need to venture into that such that we are able to come up with the right instrument that resolves it. So my colleagues on the table, I'm saying it's planning for urbanization. I don't know whether you agree, but the colleagues who are saying let's have a single framework, that's what I'm talking about, to say the housing code is supposed to have the framework. But I can't write it if I don't know where the actual problem is. I have a draft sponsored by yourself based on what you were saying during the white paper consultation process with the write-ups that you gave to us. It's still not complete. And that's why I'm saying we'll have conversations, we'll get into the room, we'll talk, and then segment the market such that whatever that we say is for what hostel development, it gets addressed with the right instrument. Social housing, we've identified where the problems are with the reform social housing. For small scale, you'll never be social housing, you'll never be CRU. You are addressing a specific problem that exists there. We need to craft the right instrument for that. The rent to buy, rent to own, it's still another instrument that is being sponsored. Others were saying we must take the social housing and make it to have a rent to own within it, but given that it never worked when we were implementing the institutional housing program, we are trying to move away from that because it will create the problems that we could not resolve. So I don't know, I think, Chair, I'm of the view that we are working towards the solutions. We will resolve it if we sit around the room, we sponsor the right policy statements of what needs to be addressed. The government does not have all the answers, and if you are not sponsoring the right content, it becomes difficult to come up with the instrument that will resolve it. And as we write policies, I think it becomes easy to put it together with the technical team that tells you this is where the breakdown occurs. The bigger battle will be around whether what we've written can be funded, because we have another problem of the economy that does not grow. And we need to talk around interventions for growing the economy using the very same things that we are talking about. I will stop there.
Thank you. Yeah, we have reached the end of the session and we really need to go for lunch to still have enough time afterwards for a third panel discussion. So please make use of the lunchtime to also engage with the panelists. They will still be around. There are lots of more questions I'm aware that people want to ask. Please ask them directly or in one of the next sessions. Again, thanks so much to all of you for your participation and inputs. The Let's give them another round of applause.
So lunch is in the restaurant, right to the entrance of the hotel. Thank you. Can you all go? Wait, please. Can you all look at your neighbor next to you? Please make sure that your neighbor returns at 2:30. Thank you very much.
So we know what time.